welcome everyone to Sans Dying and Living, where we gather to explore and reflect on the wisdom brought by death and loss. My name is Victoria Santos, and I am delighted to be in conversation with Brenda Salgado. Brenda is an author, a speaker, a medicine woman, and the founder of Nepantal Consulting. Nepatal means the in-between spaces. And Brenda is currently establishing a land trust and a center for healing and renewal. She holds degrees in biology, developmental psychology, and animal behavior, and has spent over 20 years in leadership development, nonprofit management, spiritual teaching, movement building, women's health, and environmental and social justice. She has also received training from Indigenous elders in the Toltec energy healing, traditional medicine, limpia ceremony, and Indigenous prophecy and teaching for this time that we're in. In the past, she served as the director of the East Bay Meditation Center and is the associate director of the Wisdom and Money and as a senior fellow of the Movement Strategy Center. She also served as on the board of the Movement Strategy Center, the Unity San Leandro and Lions Roar Foundation. As you can see, Brenda is very accomplished in many ways. Today, she's going to be speaking about the 6 suns and the Toltec teaching on life and death and transformation, bringing her insight in Curanderismo, mindfulness, and traditional medicines, which are gifts from our ancestors. And when we practice these cultural teaching, we're helped by our ancestors to heal our personal trauma as well as our ancestral trauma, and to cultivate a deep and ongoing relationship with the universal energies. She is a partner with a bio in some of the work that he's doing and that they're doing together to bring more healing into the world. In addition to her presentation, Brenda is also going to later spend time with us asking questions, so you'll have time to speak with her directly. But I don't want to take any more time. I just want to turn it over to you, Brenda, and say thank you so much, dear sister, for joining us today.
Oh, what a lovely welcome. Thank you, beloved one. I'm so grateful to be here with you and to have had the time to talk with you earlier today as well. And I'm always uncomfortable when bios are because it's such a, and it's what we do. There's nothing wrong with it, but I just, it always goes back to that human doing, human being. Thank you. So first, let's just take a few deep breaths together, yeah? So we can get grounded in this time. So I'm going to invite you, if you're comfortable doing so, to close your eyes and to sit in a way where you feel your dignity, whatever that means to you, however your body responds to those words. I'm going to invite you to invite your breath lower and slower in your body. So that we're present in our body, grounding ourselves a little bit here with Mother Earth. After all the richness of everything this morning, just wanting to ground in our breath. And to invite our breath lower and slower in our body so we're present with one another. And then invite you in whatever way feels good to you to envision beautiful energy coming up from our precious Mother Earth. Through your legs, through your feet, whatever's in contact with the earth or the chair. To allow the nourishment coming from that direction. With gratitude. And then also allowing beautiful energies coming from up above, from the precious heavens, from your higher self, from your ancestors, particularly your healthy ancestors who are supporting you, encouraging you to be here, who want healing for the lineage and for all humanity. As we have skillful and unskillful ancestors, and we're just calling in those that really want to support us on this healing path. And then if you can feel behind you, there's just generations and generations of ancestors behind you that made you possible in this point. So if you can imagine that cone stretching out behind you of all those who made you possible. And also to see a cone extending out from your heart out into the future and spanning as it goes out, that represents all future generations. So we situate ourselves in a 7 generations perspective of being multidimensional, as Bio was talking about. We are our ancestors' wildest dreams, and the prayers and actions and the healing we take responsibility for in this day creates a different future for future generations. So we're just holding all of that and seeing a spiral of relationship around us with the trees, with the birds, with the insects, with the mushrooms, with the stone people, with the wind, the water, the air, the winged ones, the creepy crawlies, just knowing that we're part of this vast web of life and family. And that they too are our teachers, our wise ones. I'm going to ring the bell in a second and invite you to come back. Thank you. And when you're ready, feel free to open your eyes, wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, come back in. So we'll start this part out more like a talk, much like bios, and then have some time for practice and some time for questions, discussion, flow, because we're all students and we're all teachers. And also what I share here, I just want to honor where those things came from for me. So I'm going to start to share some things with you. So this is the way I like to introduce myself. I'm the daughter of Carlos and Esmeralda Salgado, who are the people on the left, my beautiful parents who are alive here in Daly City, California. And they were born and raised in Nicaragua. And then on the right, I have my maternal grandparents, my mom's parents, but I particularly wanted to have the picture of my grandmother up because she is of my ancestors. She's the strongest guide, has been very loving and guiding and patient with me and that she's working with way. Very grateful to her for leading me to the right teachers, steering me away from teachers who were not meant to be my teachers, and guiding me towards healing in my mother's generation with my mom and her sisters. Yeah, and calling me to do Indigenous ceremony in Nicaragua to honor her, to honor ancestors. And then the other way I've been taught to introduce myself is to introduce myself not just in relationship to people and where I come from, but also in my relationship to land and where I come from, because that is a deep relationship to me too. And so on the top left, you'll see Volcan Masaya. This is a volcano in Nicaragua, and there's many beautiful little villages surrounding this volcano and where my parents grew up. And so that Nicaragua is very sacred land to me, and the land of my ancestors. And on the bottom right, you'll see Daly City, California, where I was born and raised. And I have a lot of attachment to the mountains, the land, the oceans here in San Francisco Bay Area because of being born and raised here, and just attachment to the redwoods, all those things. So that too is part of my relationship and where I come from. And then thirdly, whenever I share teachings, because of the 7 generations mindset, it's super important for me to not pretend I made any of this up. What I'm sharing with you is thousands and thousands of years old and predates colonization of the Americas. And I honor the teachers who kept these traditions alive through their generations and have passed them on to me, and that I carry that with responsibility and respect. That so I want to honor on the top right, Grandmother Amalia Salas, who's a beautiful elder who taught me about harmonization and healing with roses for personal and ancestral healing. And then the three teachers on the left, is particularly Romualdo and Rosalina, who have taught me about limpias and traditional medicine that way. And what I'm sharing with you today is more teachings from Sergio Ocelocoyoto. So Sergio Magaña on the bottom is the Toltec energy teacher, healing teacher. So many of these traditions are very similar. They all come from the Mesoamerican region. So I'm very grateful to all of the teachers I've had in my life. And some of the things that I think Bayo spoke to that I know that are big themes from the teachers all of the teachers I've been in relationship to. One is that our healing is meant to be collective, not just individual. And then for many traditional societies, grief is a communal ceremony outdoors, on the land. That feels important to share. And also that, you know, talking in therapy in our Western tradition is a useful way, one useful way for understanding and analyzing our trauma. It's not the only way. There's culturally many other ways to heal that don't involve talking and thinking so much, or don't prioritize that. And so in many traditions, we have different forms of mindfulness, of breath work, of energy work, of somatic work, of ancestral healing. So some of what we're doing today will kind of talk towards that. And the other piece, I think, of all my teachers, they all like never started teaching you any medicine, any practice until they first taught you how to be in right relationship. Respectful relationship with the natural world, with universal energies, to make offerings. That is common theme, or all of these things, that if we want to reach our Quetzalcoatl nature, which is equivalent to Buddha nature and other, you know, Christ consciousness, unity consciousness, that we have to be in respectful relationship and partnership with other entities that are non-human. So what I wanted to start with, because I felt like really important context before we do any practice, is kind of my understanding of the time that we're in. And so there's many different indigenous prophecies about the time that we're in. And the first thing I'll talk about, and I'll stop share just for a second, just so that it's not always all pictures. So the first prophecy that I'm grateful for having been taught is the prophecy of the eagle and the condor, and that comes from the people of South America and is very related to other prophecies throughout Mesoamerica. And one of the things that prophecy spoke of was that so basically in indigenous times, the teachings, regardless of what your gender was, that you were supposed to cultivate both of your wings so that you could fly well as a human being in this lifetime. And that one wing is the wing of the eagle, and that is of intellect and the masculine and doing in the material realm. And that there's the wing of the condor, and that is the wing of the feminine, connection with the earth, compassion, love, intuition, different way of knowing than the intellect. And that if we were to become integrated, good human beings, that those energies meet at our heart. And when we cultivate both wings, that we can fly well. And that was, again, that was regardless of gender, that you want to cultivate both sides of who you are. And the elders spoke, you know, some 500 years ago about a time where people who were out of balance, who were very, very eagle and atrophied in their condor because they had started to decimate their own medicine people, that they were going to begin to take over the earth, and that they would virtually destroy the condor medicine out of existence. And that during this time, a lot of medicines would have to go underground because it was not going to be safe to practice these things. And that after 500 years time passed, we would be entering a time in the larger cosmic calendar where some of these medicines would need to come out to help humanity come back into the medicine wheel that we are, the family that we are, not just with each other, but with all of existence. And so, not surprisingly, we're in the middle of that time. So that's one prophecy that sticks with me very deeply. And since 1992, I believe, every 4 years, there's a run that happens with indigenous peoples all across North, Central, South America every 4 years to be in prayer and ceremony about bringing that prophecy of the peace and dignity of indigenous peoples and the medicines back in a good way. So been really grateful to participate that in 2012 in Nicaragua at my grandmother's request. The second prophecy, which is kind of more what we'll focus our time on, is about the Toltec calendar. And so whether it's the Mayan calendar or the Toltec calendar, there's a lot of similarities, but there's calendars that are for like 365 days or 260 days that are around, our crops and, annual cycles. But then there's these much, much bigger cycles that are about collective consciousness, the development of humanity at a bigger scale. I love that bio talked about humanity being in the teenage stage, because I think about humanity's collective consciousness being in this transition between teenage and young adult. And so those cycles of 6,625 years in the Toltec calendar represent kind of times when humanity is working on some level of its development and some learning that it has to do. And so I'm going to share a little bit about that. All right, so we are currently in the ending the time of the fifth sun and about to enter the beginning of the sixth sun, and that technically begins in May of 2021. Though, cycles that are this long obviously are, they take time to transition. Oh, it's not wanting to go forward. Let me stop and restart. For some reason, it doesn't want to go forward. Let's try starting it from beginning and see if that helps. There we go. All right, cool. So what are these big 6,625 year cycles about? What I have been taught by Sergio, who was taught by many, many generations, this information has been passed down over thousands of years, that the time of the first sun, which is 5 cycles ago, was the first sun and the sun of dishonesty, where humanity was learning about problems with dishonesty, with stagnation, with not being truthful. And then what it marks some of these bigger cycles is that at the end of each sun, you have some people who are learning that lesson and moving forward, or carrying karma about that lesson that they haven't completed in themselves or their ancestral line. And that's being carried on as energetic imprints in the future. And that also there's a lot of natural disaster in between these cycles. That is normal and expected. Not that there isn't suffering with it, but it's part of the chaos and the breakdown of the old system. And that there's a lot of people who die in these transitions because on some soul level, their spirit is not choosing to make the transition, and they still have work to do in the prior sun. And so I liken that to saying, like, I may be in 3rd grade with my best friend, and we've been through kindergarten through 3rd grade, and then at some point perhaps I pass into 4th grade and she doesn't, and I would have a lot of grief about that. It's, oh, she's meant to retake that 3rd grade next year, and I'm supposed to go into 4th grade. Of course I'm going to grieve and be sad about that, because I have a different teacher, different friends, different classroom than that person next year. But it's neither right to drag my friend to 4th grade when they're not done with that developmental stage. It doesn't, a 4th grader is not better than a 3rd grader. It's just a different developmental stage. And it's not right for me to stay back in 3rd grade either to be with them if I'm complete with that stage of my development. So there's a lot of grief in some of these transitions for sure. The second sun is the sun where humanity gets attached to bodily pleasures, and bodily pleasures are not wrong. We should be present in our body, in our somatic body, and enjoy our food and be present with it. It's when we use pleasures as addictions to escape the work that we're supposed to do, or escape our feelings, or not deal with our trauma, where the sun of the energy of the second sun comes in as pleasures and addictions that keep us from being present, and often is related to lack of belonging and lack of healing. The third sun for humanity was that of ego and control, feeling superior or inferior to others, feeling shame and guilt around that, or shaming and guilting others is related to that too. And particularly where we begin to lose this issue of control around the natural world, control of other beings. It's just a natural relationship. The fourth sun is the sun of emotions and of the waters, and this is really related to these extremes of not being in healthy balance with our emotions, and that can mean being overtaken by our emotions, controlled by our emotions, identifying with our emotions as permanent, as opposed to phases we're going through, things that they're trying to teach us. And then the other extreme, which I see with a lot of folks I know, is this complete suppression of emotions, of resistance to conflict and healing, and yeah, just a complete shutting down of emotions, so you can't feel your heart, and being really obsessed with your thinking. Not being able to be in the heart anymore, and suppressing your grief and your and the feeling of those things. And when we suppress the good emotion and the what we would call the quote unquote bad emotions, we're also suppressing our good emotions. We can't feel any of it. The time of the fifth sun is what we're in, which is the knife of justice, and this is really marked by humanity being in duality and the different isms, racism, sexism, ableism. There's a lot of energy of judgment and shaming and othering, and being on these two spectrums around oppression of others, or being a victim of oppression, and seeing a lot of the patriarchy and the repression of the earth, the repression of peoples in this time. So when we think about all of that, what is marked by the time of the sixth sun, this is called the time of the white sun, and this is the time of stepping into our unity consciousness, our Quetzalcoatl consciousness, our Christ consciousness, our Buddha consciousness. So it's known by many different names and different traditions, but really identifying as a child of the universe of Mother Earth, and being able to co-create with the universe and Mother Earth, finding that balance and integration, and being on our inner path. All things are cyclical in nature, so even the different suns have an expression of being more externally focused or more internally focused. The time of the fifth sun was very external focused, and looking at the duality outside of us and trying to fix these things and fight these things and control these things. And then the time of the white sun is really about going into the inner work and being in this work of the balance and integration within, of clearing, doing the work and the practice of our inner path, and clearing karmic and ancestral trauma energies, because we can't be conscious co-creators when we've got that in our way. So some of us, whether we know it or not, chose to be here in this time to help bring about this time of the sixth sun. And the best way we can do that is about doing our work, sending that love and that energy of healing to our ancestors, trying to remove kind of the karmic ancestral things that are keeping us stuck in particular ruts. So things like that. So that's a little bit about prophecy. I'm going to take a deep breath in, because that was a lot of information But I share all that with you because I understand COVID in this time in a particular context. I have a lot of grief over the suffering that's happening in the world, and the violence and the separation. And I also understand it in a particular context. One of the things that Sergio's teachers told him is that we should expect a lot of chaos in 2020, just because there's always a lot of chaos in these times of turbulence, because the structures that were built in the consciousness of the prior sun are beginning to disintegrate and fall apart, and people freak out with change, and they're going to try to fight that in different ways. And if they're not doing the inner work, there's a lot of tumultuousness around that. And he said, so his elders had told him, expect 4 things in 2020. We'll see a lot of death. So it'll come in different ways. And so he was talking to us about that last year. And so when COVID came, I was like, so that's how that's showing up. One of many ways, right? The other thing to expect, as I mentioned before, is a lot of natural disasters, these fires, these natural disasters everywhere, escalating. So seeing that. And that's Mother Earth just trying to wake us up and ground us to the times that are changing, to the new grids on the earth. And then the third was to expect economic collapse in different forms, because of the way we relate to money now is in the consciousness of the fifth sun. So what will that look like in the future from a different consciousness, the way we relate to resources and economy, because economy is the care of home, the management of home, and that's not how we work with it. And then the fourth thing, which I keep waiting for this shoe to drop, is he said expect there to be moments of a lot of technology disruption to get us kind of away from the technology and back to the earth. Yes. So yeah, a lot of disruption. And so I understand, again, this time in a particular time, the universal energies are trying to help us clear things. So a lot of things are coming up to be cleared, and it's like the stuff from our past that we thought we were done back, for some reason popping up back up, so that we can feel it and move through it and clear it for ourselves, for our ancestors, for future generations. So it's a lot. I always say it's a real gift and a real responsibility to be here right now, so that we can do this work for future generations. And that this time of the sixth sun is not about the pyramid and the I'm going to make it happen. It's about being in circle and co-creation, not just with other human beings, but with the earth guardians, with the stone people, talking to the trees. That's why I love bio so much, right? Some of our wisest teachers are not human and are not even in the material plane. And if we can slow down and listen, they really want to help us, but it's hard for them to help us when we don't pick up the phone. And we don't get still and we don't listen. And when we don't listen to each other too. Each one of us brings medicine in this time, but we can only access it when we slow down. And so the virus is really forcing everyone to slow down. And it's not having an impact equally for people of low income, people of color, people with housing instability. They're suffering at much deeper rates than some of us. So just holding a lot of compassion for all the suffering everywhere. Another deep breath. So I'm going to share a practice with you now. Now that we've a little bit about the suns and what we're trying to clear, what my understanding of this is that we all carry karmic flints on our crown that have to do with our ancestral and karmic past around these different suns, and that we all have work to do to clear so that things can be better here. And as I'm doing kind of Toltec energy healing with people, particularly on their ancestral lines, and helping them break old patterns, there's practices that I do on a regular basis to store energy, because I'm not healing anybody. This has been very clear to me from all my teachers. I'm not healing anyone. I am facilitating and partnering with universal forces to help people release the things they're ready to release and clear, and call in the things they're ready to call in. But that is a partnership, and that I'm respecting their sovereignty around when and how they want to do that and when they feel ready. And that my capacity to help people do that is very related to me being in humble and right relationship to the earth, to the moon, to the sun, to the natural world, to my own work around clearing my shadow. And the one that I really want to focus on for today is working with the forces of life and death, because that's what's related to this conference. So I work on a regular basis with who we call the Coatlicue, which is the goddess of life and death, but she has many names, many faces throughout history. And so one of the things I love about the way Sergio teaches is that he said, don't get fundamentalist about any path. Coatlicue, when we talk with Coatlicue, it's this in another tradition. When we work with the eye of Tezcatlipoca to create new contracts with the universe, it's the same as the eye of Horus in the Egyptian tradition. So understand that these are universal energies. And this is just the name by which we know it. So Coatlicue as life and death is the goddess of life and death. She's teaching us to be in right relationship with the Mother Earth, to compost the things that don't serve us, to be friends with death in the ways that Bio spoke of, to see it as part of our becoming. There's so many things that Bio said that really touched me earlier today, about letting us die well. And yeah, I really loved his conversation around the demise of the human colonial object and seeing time in a particular way. Coatlicue is life and death. In this system, when we're invited to store energy with her, but to store energy with her, we have to be in right relationship with her. And so this is both a breathing practice and an energy practice that I'm going to invite you into doing with me, and to think about the things you want to release in your life. They may be grief, it may be blockages to your own path of destiny, it could be ancestral suffering, it could be illness in your body. We're going to be making a practice in a little bit of making all these offerings to the goddess of life and death, because the only way she'll allow us to store energies of creation and destruction in our body to do what we need to do in our life and to help others is if we make offerings to her. So I'm going to invite you again in a second to close your eyes so we can do some of this practice together. And then we'll have some time to be in conversation too, because I know there's wisdom in the circle. So I'm going to invite you to take a deep breath in and out. And as you're breathing in and out, to release any heavy energy that you're carrying, to settle deeper into your body. It's been a lot of talking and we want to get into our breath. And then to take another deep breath in and to connect with the divine above, the divine below, in whatever form that is for you. To connect with universal energies, elemental energies, to see yourself, your heart, as the center of all these directions, that you're in relationship to all these things. I'm just asking all those energies to be with us as we're in this practice, to connect at our heart center. Then to take another deep breath in and connect with the energies of today. Today is Tutochli in the Toltec calendar. It's just 2 rabbit. Asking for the blessings of these energies to help us do the work we're going to do together in this practice. And in a moment, we're going to breathe in a particular way so we're in the right relationship with Coatlicue energies. So what I'm going to invite you to do is we're all going to breathe together. And we're going to breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth. And I'm going to say 9 in, 9 out. You don't need to count, just to connect with the number 9 so we're in the right energies with the universe. So I'm going to breathe in and out together. 9 in, 9 out. 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 9 in. 9 out. 9 in. 9 out. 9 in. 9 out. And just continue to breathe in and out. I'm going to call first on Coatlicue as life to come be with us so we can store energy to create in our life, to create in our communities, to create the things we're calling for so we can be of service in this time. And so I'm going to call her using words in Nahuatl. I'm just going to envision the energies of life and the life force and the creation forces that exist in nature and all around us to come be with us. And I'm going to invite you along with me to breathe out our breath to her to make 4 offerings. The first breath will be to offer her the best energy of our dreams. Just breathe out, send her your love and the energy of your dreams. Second breath will be for the best energy of our thoughts. Third breath that I'm offering to her is the best energy of my thoughts, or feelings, excuse me. So we've offered her the best energy of our dreams, thoughts, feelings, and the last one will be the best energy of our actions. We send this energy to her with respect and gratitude for being with us. And I'm going to invite you to breathe in and out, and as you're breathing in and out with Coatlicue as life force, to offer to Coatlicue as life all the things you want to release in your life. So these can be in your head, you can speak them aloud, it's up to you how you want to do it. I'll give some examples, and you should do what feels right for you. I release to Coatlicue as life and remaining psoriatic arthritis in my feet that I know comes from past lives and stuck energy. I release from me any ancestral patterns of abusive power, of oppression of others. I also release from my body any ancestral patterns of giving away my power in order to survive. I hold compassion for my ancestors who were skillful and unskillful in different ways. And I release those patterns so I don't have to carry them forward, those ancestral winds. I release any blocks to feeling deeply in my heart. I release any blocks to the medicine in my heart, my blood, my bones that lies dormant there. I release any blocks to my path of destiny. I release addictions to you, Coatlicue's life, to be composted. I release any ways that I suffer on my path of destiny, feeling I have to suffer greatly. I'm now allowing myself to flower and unfold in a natural time with the universe. Flowers don't push to unfold. They receive the sun and the light, and they unfold in a natural rhythm. I release any heavy thoughts, negative thoughts about myself and others, any blocks to my spiritual and perceptual skills, any negative karmic flints that I carry for myself and humanity. I release grief and sorrow in my lungs. I release avoidance, fear of being on my path, of being in service. All the trauma and of my ancestors that lives in my abdomen. The fear, the shame, the guilt, the rage, the anger, that blocks my own life force, my own Koyopa energy flowing through me. Any blocks to my chakras in the Toltec world, Totonalkayas. I release judgment and shame of self and others. I release that which keeps me from being in right relationship. So now that we've made many, many offerings to Coatlicue life, we now have earned the right to ask Coatlicue to create one or two things in our lives that we want. So place your left hand out in front of you and ask for two things to be created. Those will be unique to you. And I'll just share my own aloud as you do yours. I ask Coatlicue life force. I ask for the resources to purchase the land at 13575 Lake Chabot Road to become an Apotless Center for Healing and Renewal, and to steward that with a circle of women, to listen to the land and the land guardians. I also humbly ask for perfect health and vibrant energy flow throughout my body so I can be of highest service in this time. To ask for the two things you want, it could be relieving debt, relieving illness, but the things that you want to create. So it would be vibrant health, understanding, patience, could be many things, but the thing you want to create, one or two things. And we're only allowed to do this because we've allowed Coatlicue's life to take the life force of these offerings out of our bodies. And now that we've offered those requests, we now ask humbly to store energy to create in our lives and in the lives of others in our communities with integrity, with love, with skillfulness. We want to store the energy of creation on the left side of our body. So breathe in and out. And receive from the life forces the capacity to create and to store this energy to create what you need in your life to help co-create with community, to help co-create with the earth in this time, a place of skillfulness and love and integrity. And feel that energy being stored from your head down to your toes. I'm going to clap my hands and say Ometeo to Coatlicue's life. Thank you for helping us to release that which no longer serves us, for composting that which no longer serves us, for giving death to that which no longer serves us, so that we can feed you in a good way and to do our shadow work so that we can store life energy. That life comes from composting of the old, that we're part of the cycle of life. So thank you for allowing us to store. And now we're going to call Coatlicue's death and ask her to be with us as well. And in the same way, we're going to offer 4 breaths to Coatlicue's death, who's now with us. We want good relationship to life and death because we're always going through different rites of passage, different cycles of our own life to becoming. So we offer to Coatlicue's death the best energy of our dreams with our breath. We offer Coatlicue's death the best energy of our thoughts, the best energy of our feelings, and the best energy of our actions. And now that we've made these offerings, we humbly and respectfully offer to Coatlicue as death all the things we want to compost and give death to. And it may be the same things you just offered, and may be different things, to trust that your spirit knows what you wish to release. I release any fears of being on my path of destiny, any boulders, any blocks to my creativity and my force, and being a conduit for that with Mother Earth. I release any blocks to my heart, any blocks to the medicine that I carried, that I have forgotten. I release any illness in my body, any self-doubt, any lack of self-love or self-confidence. All the ways I speak harmfully to myself and to my being. Any ways I use my words as daggers against myself or others, without skill, without kindness. I release any blocks to my will and discipline to being on my path of destiny and my purpose. I release the pain that I'm feeling in my shoulders these last few days. I know that something's being released there. I release any blocks to creating with the universe, identifying as the child of the universe and Mother Earth, and being in partnership with all the teachers who wish to teach me, or those other human beings, other non-human beings, skillful ancestors, Mother Earth, that are trying to get through to me that I'm not listening to. I want to clear all those blockages. All the ways I resist slowing down out of fear. Always identifying as a human doing before a human being or becoming. I release any impatience, judgment, shame, myself or others. Coatlicue as death, I accept you to take my offerings. Take the life force out of these things. And just breathe out and release that which you wish to give death to. Allowing those things to teach us the lessons they came to teach us, so we can release them with love, compost them with love. And now that we've made our offerings, we're going to ask for one or two things that we want Coatlicue as death to give death to in our lives. So place your right hand out and ask for two things you want to give death to in your life. I want to give death to any illness in my body, in all my bodies, physical and otherwise. My stuck energy is there. I ask for the humility, the capacity, and the skills to be a good steward in this time for that which is gifted to me to steward on behalf of the community. And now that we've asked for the two things we want to give death to, we want to store on our right side the capacity to give death to the things that don't serve our path and purpose, don't serve our becoming, don't serve our growth. So storing as we breathe in and out, allow yourself to receive the energy of death, of destruction, of composting on the right side of your body. that relationship with as the goddess of death, to be able to be in cycles of composting so we can create new life. So on your right side of your body, feel yourself being filled with the energy of death, the ability to give death to the things that no longer serve you and your lineage. Feel that energy being stored with your breath from head to toe on your right side. Seeing yourself in balance with the forces of life and death, honoring what death has to teach us, and the energy to transform the things that are complete and done. To partner with the earth to compost, the mycelial network. Mushrooms have so much to teach us about breaking down the things that no longer serve. And that can become new life. Storing that energy in your right side. I clap my hands together and I say, Omateo to Coatlicue is death. Thank you to both the forces of life and death for the opportunity to store this energy together today so we can create and destroy. May we hold and store this energy with integrity, with love, with compassion for ourselves and others, with respect for our sovereignty and the sovereignty of others. That we don't use these energies in ways that are not skillful and that disrespect the sovereignty of others on their own journeys. We thank you deeply for the opportunity to be in partnership respectfully with you. We thank you for storing these energies. May we use them in good ways for this time of the sixth sun, which is being co-created at all times with all our relatives, human and non-human, and future generations. Thank you for this opportunity. Omateo, in gratitude. I'm gonna ring the bell and we'll come back at the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Omateo. Thank you, beloved ones. I'm going to invite you just to wiggle your body, take a few breaths back in here. So thank you for letting me share that practice with you. It's an ancient practice, one of many that I'm grateful to be a part of. And to know in this time we're deeply meant to reconnect. Our culture has taught us to be afraid of aging, afraid of death, to deny all this, and it's such a part of life. If you think about the different rites of passage that we have lost, every rite of passage is much like, that caterpillar that goes into the cocoon and is broken down and destroyed and becomes a butterfly. We have rites of passage too, from childhood to adulthood to motherhood to elder to ancestor when we cross over to the other side. And each time we pass through those portals, we're supposed to do that together in community. We're supposed to grieve what we're leaving behind and the gifts of that time as we step over into the responsibility of our next phase. And we have to have both connection to life and death to walk through those portals with responsibility. So death is beautiful and she wants to be with us and she needs us to slow down. Mother Earth and COVID is here because we're not listening and we're not slowing down. Bio always says the times are urgent. We need to slow down and to be in this way in right relationship with all things again. to release some of these knowings of modernity that Bio speaks of, is to become in relationship with all again. So thank you for sharing. I want to invite some reflections back about, let me see how many of us we are. I don't even know. 118.
118.
I want everyone to have a chance to share. I wonder if we should try to do, oh, I don't think we can, huh? Small groups. I don't think so.
Quite a lot of people.
Yeah, we have a lot of people. I want to invite people to share, but I do want to ask you to be crisp with your words, to make more room for others, to notice if you're taking up a lot of space, and that means others can't share. So I both want you to share deeply from your heart, and also to be present to how much time you're taking. And it's a dance, right? It's not an either or. It's not a shame in it, but just a sharing of the space, sharing of the circle. So I would love to open it up to see if there's someone who has a question or has something that came through to them that they felt significant that they want to share with the group.
I see Lee has their hand up.
Okay.
Let's see.
Yes. Should we do it?
You unmute yourself?
Maybe we can unmute you. I don't know.
Thank you. Hi, Brenda. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
That was so beautiful. Thank you. I just wanted to say, you can hear me okay?
Yes.
There was something you said that really touched my heart when you talked about this, the flower doesn't decide when it's going to flower. The sun shines on the plant, and then at the right time and place, there's a flowering. And the same with consciousness. As you said that, and I reflected on it, I realized I'm not, as a person, going to wake up. The consciousness that I am truly is going to awaken at the right time when it's seen enough light of the sun. And at that moment, I felt it waking up within me. It was just very beautiful, the way you put it, and it just touched my heart. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, when we do chakra work in the Toltec tradition, the Totonacayo is very different. We work with animal and plant visuals instead of colors. In our stomach, we're clearing away the blocks to our path of destiny, which is often the fear, the trauma, the anger, the rage, the block to life force. But in our chest, we're planting a poinsettia, which for us represents the flowering on our path of destiny with ease, with grace. That doesn't have to be so hard. And that, you know, that thing of like, if you try to force a bud open before it's time, it would die, right? We can't do that. And but also that plant is really lovingly receiving the sun and the water. It's like, yes, thank you. It's just taking it in. So I think that's the other thing is like I know that I've been conditioned a lot in this culture not to give and not receive. And when we do that, we block our own becoming, our own flowering. So yeah, so I always think of the flower in the chest opening up. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you for sharing.
We have
Yeah.
Janet, will you unmute yourself?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm almost speechless, but your words helped me synthesize experiences that as a woman I've been going through my whole life. Which shifting away from always being the support system. I mean, you just spoke about it, always giving and not, well wanting to receive, but also being in this patriarchal society which does not hear my best needs. And I know I'm shifting into a space of stepping into my own present moment awareness and I'll call it spiritual power or connective power. But I'm still functioning within a very abusive culture.
Mm.
And that's one of my challenges. I find I tend to just move out of that kind of space and into a space that's more supportive and frees me to use my own energy to create and co-create. And I think that's all I have to share.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I mean, I know that both in my kind of personal work and then also in the women's circle, women's retreats that I've done, one of the biggest things I worked on ancestrally was I come from a long line of women martyrs who have been trained to be that way, right? And to give and give and give and take care of everyone else and not receive. And it's my mom, my aunts, everybody. And that, I don't judge that at all. I know that that was in response to patriarchy and trying to take care of so much harm in the world. And it also meant that, you know, we lost some of our women and also because a lot of our medicine was taken away a long time ago, our power. And, but still there's some part of us that knew like the taking care of the whole, is medicine that's needed. That's, important. And this culture teaches us that to receive is to be vulnerable, right? I've had this conversation with my husband. My husband is German Norwegian. And and you know, he was raised by a German father and a Norwegian mom. There's some other European things in there, but he said to me that he was raised, there were 5 boys. And you know, I told him at some point when he was really, he gets anxious about our finances periodically because of what I do in the world. I'm in flow spirit and money shows up when it's supposed to show up. But it's a tricky thing, right? And yeah, he said to me, we were 5 boys and my father taught us that to be a man means never to be vulnerable, never ask for help. And that if you're asking for help, you're not a man, you're not taking care of yourself. And the corollary to that was, if you see your brother struggling, you shouldn't offer him help because you're implying that he's not a man and he can't take care of himself. And I just started crying when he said that, because I was raised in such a different culture where family is very interconnected, friends are very connected, and someone's in trouble, the community steps in to help. And, you know, there's this kind of flow and reciprocity that is not kind of like, I'm giving you 75 cents, you have to give it back. But that we take care of each other. And so I realized in that moment how hard everything felt for him because he thought he had to do everything alone. I was like, I've never done anything alone. I said, my family helps me. I can't, you know, my ancestors help me. Mother Earth helps me. I'm asking her for help and I'm making offerings to the land all the time for, you know, to be in a good way as I do things and to remind me when I get off track, you know, ancestors too. And so I said, so I don't claim that I've done anything by myself either. Like I have been held and I am holding at all times. And that's that, you know, that separation of feeling like we have to do everything alone. It's that highway that Bio said we got to get off of, right? And it's hard when it's deeply ancestral and intergenerationally woven into us.
And culturally woven into us.
Yeah.
Which is the challenge I experience.
Yeah.
Still in that patriarchal culture, unless I choose no longer to support it.
Mm-hmm. And that's a big thing right now. How do we choose to divest from particular structures and invest in new structures, right?
Or create new structures.
Yeah. And that, you know, we're holding, and we're not going to do it all right now. Like we're not supposed to. The next cycle is going to be 6,625 years long too. And there's young ones being born right now who are bringing in the blueprints for the new systems. And then we're going to be tinkering and co-creating those for decades, hundreds of years, you know, and we won't see in this lifetime all of it, but we're shift in the energy and the way we relate to land and the way we relate to each other, so that there's freedom for the young ones who come in with the blueprints to not get sucked into this old and dying culture, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not angry at the old and dying culture. I'm really not. I know that it's a manifestation of where humanity has been for the last cycle. Got some more questions.
Beatrice Martino has their hand up. Beatrice, do you want to?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. There's so much that is resonating with me. But something I'd wanted to share was in this practice, but also just recently in the past few weeks, I've been noticing that I want to cling and hold on to so much. I think that's been my reaction, especially in the beginning of the pandemic, but also it's a point of transition. I just finished my master's degree and I'm at my own personal transition of kind of going out into the world and starting a new chapter of my own career and my passions and my destiny and purpose. And so much of me has wanted to cling onto things and to attach to things. And there's a lot of anxiety and desire for control in that. But in this time where we cannot control, I'm finding, and I find this practice too, finding the tremendous healing power and beauty and growth that can happen by letting go and to opening those hands and not clinging. And I think that's something that that was what I was asking for in that practice. And it's interesting that even just in the course of the session, I noticed that when you were talking about the different things we should expect in 2020, and then one of them was the disruption of technology, I immediately had this like clinging anxiety reaction, because it's been such a blessing to have technology in this time and to connect that way. And it's been a curse as well. And I understand that the disruption of technology is a reconnection with the earth and the natural world and the community, but also I've been clinging to technology as a way to connect. And so that was an immediate reaction. But then even after this practice, I feel more like, I don't know, that flower analogy. Anyway, I think I'm saying more words than I want to offer space for others, but thank you. And I wanted to share that piece.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's deeply ancestral true. The clinging is part of kind of that capitalist patriarchal grabby thing, right? Of the take. And I think about in the Buddhist traditions of the hungry ghosts, of like, well, we're grabby when we feel hungry. And because so many of us lost connection with our ancestral lands, lost connection with our ancestors, lost connection with the ancestral wisdom, all of our ancestors were indigenous to place at one time and knew how to live in this way. And it's been broken longer for different peoples. And so I think there's this way that capitalism teaches us to want to grab. I'm so hungry for this because I don't have it in my life. And, so I recognize that I have, like, I know we talk a lot about white privilege and wealth privilege and all these things. I have a lot of belonging privilege. Like, I feel a sense of belonging with the earth, with people, with the trees. I never feel alone that way. Because there's always this assemblage of beings I'm in relationship to that I'm co-creating with that are not always human. And so, yeah, I wish that for you too, like that when we're not so grabby, there's space for something to come in. There's space for us to be humble and listen to what wants to come through us instead of trying to make things happen. And that's, again, conditioning culturally, generationally. But there's an ease and grace in releasing some of that and being more in reciprocity in that flow. Thank you for your share.
The hunger for receiving. I'm also thinking about what Janet said about the giving and receiving dynamic. But really that actually, we receive when we don't do this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You can't receive when you're like this. Yeah. And it's funny because I was holding a lot of retreats for people of wealth with wisdom and money when I was working there, and one of my friends talked about the constipation of wealth. and the constipation of resources, because there's this grabbing and hoarding, and I'm afraid to lose, and so that energy can't flow in the universe, right? Yeah, all the sphincters, I love that. Yeah, we got to release those sphincters for the human intellect.
Thank you.
We have two questions here in the chat, and then we're going to go over to Fanny Lee. But the two questions first is one on pleasure. I have a question about pleasure and receiving, which ties into what you were just sharing. And then do the 6 sun cycle occur every 6,625 years, or is it each sun cycle 6,000?
Yeah, each cycle is 6,625 years. So you can think of it like a calendar, like, you know, there's 2019, 2020, like we're in these different times. And so we're ending the calendar, the time of the 5th sun right now, and beginning the next calendar, which is the time of the 6th sun next year. And also, I just want to say too, because we think in these longer cosmic cycles, it's not like May 2021, some switch gets clicked and all of a sudden everything's going to be hunky-dory happy, right? I think of it as like, you know, the influence of the time of the 6th, you know, we've been in this time of the 5th sun for a long time. And then, you know, as far back as 2008, 2009, 2012, you're starting to see the influence of the 6th sun coming in. It's why you're seeing so much mindfulness, so much inner work, different talks and orientations. And that really what we're talking about is that May 2021 is the time, energetically speaking, when the influence of the 6th sun starts to become the majority. And I'll start going like that. So to understand that these transitions take time, if there's these long cycles, that these transitions take time, and then we'll be in that time for a long time of this co-creation in this new energy. But yeah, so we are ending the time of the 5th sun, begin the time of the 6th sun, and we carry karma from the suns before that we need to clear.
Great. Do you want to say anything regarding receiving and pleasure?
Yes, I'm not sure what the question was.
I have a question about pleasure and receiving. Oh, it takes the pleasure off, really. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it's interesting because I do think that there's some balance we have to have in all of this, right? We want to be in pleasure. We want to enjoy our food. We want to be present with our food. We want to, you know, massage our body, and I go swimming every day, and I take pleasure in being in relationship with the water, and the water helping to clear things. I sing to the water. I sing to the trees while I'm there. I take great pleasure in the feel of the water and how it's helping me to clear. That it's such a kind and generous being. So pleasure is important. I think pleasure, the addiction thing around one of the suns is about when we cross over into escape and not doing our work and letting it numb us as an escape, not being present. And then also receiving, yeah, there's this thing about giving and receiving that we have to pay attention to all the time. It's dangerous when we're giving all the time and not receiving, because there is an arrogance in that we haven't looked at, where we think, right? My husband said that to me once, and that was a really big lesson. He said, you know, you're this Wonder Woman doing all these things in the world and helping community and healing people and all these things. He's like, but I don't feel like you need me. I know you love me, but I don't feel like you need me. And I just started crying when he said that to me. Because I realized in all these relationships, I have a lot of reciprocity, but I had a wall up around reciprocity with him in some ways. And that there was a power dynamic I was creating there that was not in flow. And then, you know, similarly, I am much more comfortable asking people to support me financially with love offerings, because I need to receive to do the work that I'm doing, that spirit is asking me to do, that ancestors is working to do. Yeah, so I'm in my own unlearnings around how much I give, how much receive, and taking care of myself, taking the time to nourish my body, clear my body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that personal experience. Elder Fanny Lee, would you like to ask your question, ma'am? Can you unmute yourself? I'm gonna try to unmute you.
There I am. Yes.
Yes.
Now you can hear.
Yes, we
Yes.
can hear you.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, young, gorgeous, beautiful beings. Thank you all. I'm almost 83 and I'm amazed that I made it this far. It's just beautiful to see the gathering of the younger people who are imbuing compassion, imbuing knowledge, imbuing learning. And the exercise was just splendiferous. And carry the life and the death with me, with my mantra that I always use. This could be my last breath. Because that mantra gives me the joy of the moment, the fullness of the moment, that I can be in the present. And you've added that by making sure that I have life on the left and my death on the right. And I am able to meld both of them together in joy. Hopefully, I'd love to die laughing.
Oh, I love your energy. Thank you for blessing us.
I think we have time for one more question, and I see Rick Chef. Rick, can I, let's see, I'm gonna unmute you. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I got my question answered on the internet because I got a little concrete on how long the cycles were, but I'll take this moment to say thank you. Just to honor you and what you're offering and the wholeness, and to honor everyone on this whole event, but certainly this session with you. So thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you. And my dear sister Brenda, back to you, healer, woman, warrior, goddess.
Thank you for holding such exquisite space and helping with the questions. Allowed me to be much more present. I'm grateful. So this is from John O'Donoghue's book, To Bless the Space Between Us, one of my favorite books. And I've been sharing this poem a lot. It's called For the Interim Time. So I'm going to invite you to just to let the words wash over you, not to analyze it in your head too much, but to let the words wash over you. And then when I'm done, if people feel called to, they can share what called to them, what phrase or words called to them in the chat. But to just allow the words to wash over you, not to think too much. For the interim time. When near the end of day, life has drained out of light, and it is too soon for the mind of night to have darkened things. No place looks like itself. Loss of outline makes everything look strangely in between, unsure of what has been or what might come. In this one light, even the trees seem groundless. In a while it will be night, but nothing here seems to believe the relief of the dark. You are in this time of the interim where everything seems withheld. The path you took to get here has washed out. The way forward is still concealed from you. The old is not old enough to have died away. The new is still too young to be born. You cannot lay claim to anything in this place of dusk. Your eyes are blurred and there is no mirror. Everyone else has lost sight of your heart, and you can see nowhere to put your trust. You know you have to make your own way through. As far as you can, hold your confidence. Do not allow your confusion to squander this call, which is loosening your roots in false ground. that you might come free from all that you have outgrown. What is being transfigured here is your mind, and it is difficult and slow to become new. The more faithfully that you can endure here, the more refined your heart will become for your arrival in the new dawn. Many blessings to you. My words are loosening roots in false ground. Can we unmute everyone? I'm just gonna, before we sign off, I want you to put your hands on your heart. And we're all just, it's gonna be a big cacophony, so don't worry about the cacophony. I want you to repeat these words after me. I am loved.
I am
I'm
loved.
loved.
I am a blessing.
I am a blessing.
I am sacred just the way I am.
I am sacred just as I am.
I have dignity.
I have
I have
dignity.
I have wisdom and gifts for the world.
I have wisdom and gifts for the world.
And if you're able to, click on the gallery view. Pick a page and say, look at the faces there and say, you are loved.
You are loved.
Switch to another page and say, you are a blessing.
You are a blessing.
Switch to another page. You are sacred just the way you are.
You are sacred just the way you are.
You have dignity.
You have
dignity.
You have wisdom and gifts for the world.
You have wisdom and gifts for the world.
And so it is. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest
So
of
it
the
is.
day. And I'll see you on Zoom later. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful.